circle.
Hey everyone, welcome aboard. This is another Shortwave show that's about to start on this Saturday, August 19th, 2017, with a nice background here of the Canadian International DX Club. Hello everyone, live stream looks fine, looks okay. Hello everybody in the chat, welcome everyone. My name is Gilles, and I'm not located in Montreal today. I'm located at Greenfield Park, which is a small town south shore of Montreal. We are at a special event with some great people, and of course this is the Canadian International DX Club Barbecue. This is an annual event where club members meet and we talk about radio. There's a juicy and beautiful ICOM ICR 8600 right there that is very beautiful, but I was surprised at how small it is when you compare it especially to the 8500 I've got at home. So welcome aboard everybody. I know it's a little bright. It's the sunshine that is over here. I can maybe play a little bit with the settings of the camera, but we're gonna let it like that for now. I think it's gonna be okay. So welcome everybody, welcome Luis Arevalo, Dan 805, PLF Radio in France, David in Barcelona. Sorry about the events that happened in Spain, it's really sad. Nick Amendot from Romania, hello there. The Vaults from Russia, hello there. We have Nick Amendot. We have Scotty Tier 6 from Toronto, sunny Toronto. Oh, it's always sunny in Toronto, how come? We have Richard Cook from the UK, Jay Waterston 69. And anybody else, say hello please. This is really a cool moment where we are at a CIDX event. So CIDX is the Canadian Radio Club. It's been here since 1962, a non-profit club to, you know, as I always say, radio is one of those things that is a very solitary thing. Pretty much everybody will know that basically we are kind of a little extraterrestrial in our hobby. That's what other people think of us, basically. So a club is cool for that because all us weird, you know, tech people that just love radio gather and talk about what we love with other people that love the same thing that we do. Hello there, Don Moment, VE6JY. Gary Scroggins, Bobby Burgess from Morgan City, Louisiana. Jerry, hello there. Simon Templar from Portland, Oregon. Nice to have you here. Where are you already, Vaults? I forgot where you are. So anyways, welcome everybody. Cholikov, nice to have you here from Nashville. And yes, don't forget everybody, Monday special radio show / Eclipse show at 1800 UT, 2 p.m. Eastern on this channel. We're going to talk about the eclipse and the effects on radio propagation, and of course we'll try to find any effects on shortwave while the solar eclipse is actually happening live. So it's you know, I'm not usually nervous in doing these shows. I'm a little bit nervous. I've got people watching me. You know, the only thing that's watching me while I'm doing my live shows usually is my cat, and so it's not too bad, you know. F. Blassie, nice to have you on board from Oakland, California. Oh, in Latvia, Vault. Sorry. Did not mean to give the wrong country here. So, Vault is in Latvia. So, Don Moment saying hello from Alberta, CIDX West. And, okay. So, today we're going to ask a few questions. We got a few people that want to participate in this live show. Hope everything's all right. How do you guys find the audio? Is it fine with you? It looks good here with the stream. Also, one thing I want to mention, we are streaming to an LTE connection from my cell phone. So if there are some stream problems, sometimes could happen, but it seems good here. I'm green on both the software and on YouTube, so holding up. And I tested the connection, 90 megabits down and 25 megabits up here on LTE, so it should actually hold on pretty good. Danny, Shortwave Radio DX, hello there from the state of New York. Morrison AV, hello there, and basically interesting. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that is possible that there is low frequency noises because of the open mic. It's the mic from the laptop that I'm using because the wireless mic audio was too low. So okay, and let's hope that it's not too windy, as we will get maybe some wind issues, but it shouldn't be too bad. So today, of course, somebody's going to ask me. I've instead of beer, I'm having a Palm Bay. It's a sparkling vodka beverage, apparently. So it's what we're having today, right now.
Did they pay you to mention it?
And no, they don't pay me. I wish they would. That'd be very, very, very nice. So hello everybody. Philip Briggs from Brazil. Hello there, Ghost World. Hey there. Big R7769. Data dude. Nice to have you here. And will I go overboard on my data on my phone? Absolutely. And I don't want to know what's the bill going to be like after this show. So anyways, everybody says that everything seems to be okay. Ghost World, oh, you're in Toronto visiting. Cool. Usually in New Jersey. So hope you're enjoying Canada. Great country and a great place to be. And so, okay. Anybody wants to join in for a few questions? Let's start with Sheldon, because he's the master of ceremonies here. And so Sheldon, please sit here. So Sheldon Harvey, which is he's what, president of CIDX?
That's right.
And also he's the guy sending out the Radio HF newsletter every month.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about who you are exactly.
Who I am. One of the radio nerds, like everybody else.
Okay.
That's here.
Okay.
Long-time shortwave listener, medium wave DXer. Been a member of CIDX since 1979, 1980, something like that.
Okay.
And when I joined CIDX, it was a Western Canada club only.
Okay.
And I met up with some of the guys from out west at a convention called the Anarch Convention.
Okay.
Which we used to have many years ago. And from that meeting, we sprung it into sort of a nationwide club.
Okay.
With an east and a west division.
Okay.
And we've been rolling along ever since. This is our 55th anniversary.
55th anniversary
of CIDX.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question that came to mind earlier for me. Who created the CIDX?
Oh, I need help.
Anybody
on that
knows?
One. Mickey.
Who created CIDX?
Daryl Belanger? No.
So somebody that is obviously not there anymore for
not
some
with
reason.
us anymore. No.
Just not radio.
So it's
okay. When did the CIDX really get that moment of notoriety where people started really?
I think, like as Mickey was saying, Mickey's one of our vice presidents. He lives in come sneak in behind me.
Yeah, please.
Sneak in behind me. He's from Western Canada, and the club actually started in Winnipeg. Then it moved out west to the Edmonton area.
Okay.
And as I said, it was a Western Canadian club. There was an Eastern club called Canadian Shortwave Listeners International, which was based in Ontario. But then when that club folded, we picked up their membership, brought them into CIDX, and that sort of created it as a national club. Okay. So I would say really that was the birth of the full national radio club.
A fellow by the name of Brian Pimlet, the late Brian Pimlet, he kind of took it over from the guys in Winnipeg, and him and Don Moman hooked up. Hi Don, by the way.
Hi Don, yes, you're out there watching us.
Yes, Don is in the chat right now.
And they kind of took it over and got it reorganized and back in ship shape.
Okay.
And we went from there.
How many members?
Well, in the 80s we were in the 300
to 400.
Okay.
Now we're a little over 100.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what makes CIDX? Okay, there's so many clubs that disappeared over time. Now, one example that for me is here in Quebec. There was a French Canadian club called the Clermont Côte du Québec.
Yeah.
And I'll be very honest, I do totally understand why they don't exist anymore. But what makes CIDX different? I mean, what is there else in Canada? Is the Ontario DX Association still there?
Well, it's there, but it's not really a club anymore. It's like it's a website, basically.
Yeah, I did see there was a website, but
yeah,
it's like
and people post columns to the website. But like you don't become a member. You just kind of go to the website and you can read the stuff.
So CIDX is pretty much the only club left in Canada that is a radio club.
Yeah, and it's one thing that's unique. It's what we call a general coverage club. It's not just shortwave. Like there are some clubs in the state, like NASWA in the U.S., which is
some are very
shortwave.
Specific. Yeah.
Whereas we'll do AM, FM, shortwave, ham radio.
Yes, absolutely. And
everything.
the bulletin is a great electronic publication. It used to be on a paper publication.
Right.
It's when did the switch happen, and what were the reasons behind switching for an electronic publication?
We switched to electronic mainly cost and people power to put it all together and assemble it, and mailing costs and all that sort of thing. So we decided to go electronic about
it's probably like
15 years maybe.
Yeah.
I think we were one of the first that did that.
Yeah, I mean it raised some eyebrows, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And,
well, that's one thing also that I was wondering, because we got to say it, our hobby is a hobby of people that usually is a little older, and
afraid of change.
you know, I'm almost 50 years old, so.
Well, you've got us by a few.
Yeah, I know. I'm still young for a lot
young
of it. But the first thing that I thought is, did you lose some people on the way when changing to electronic?
We lost a grand total of 2 people.
Okay,
when we
that's
switched.
not too bad.
And they were very understanding of what we did and why we did it.
Yeah.
And you know, they were at that time they were not into computers. They were 2 older members, and they said, "Hey, you know, we realize why you're doing it." And just talk to the guys out west when they used to put the bulletin together manually, and then when I did it here manually, it was a horrible task. Doing
it was printed page by page, and then the group would
get
together and do collating and folding and stapling.
And we got a ferocious dog here.
Yes.
Killers.
So if we all disappear live, the guys know why.
Lucky your cat's not here.
So,
first live eating.
do you want to introduce yourself a little more and tell us who you are exactly?
Well, I'm Mickey Dalmage from Sherwood Park, Alberta.
Okay.
And been a member since about 1980 when I moved from Manitoba to Alberta. And a fellow by the name of Don Moman, who's watching, dropped me a note and said, I'm also listening, and let's get together, and the rest is history. We kind of been a member and an editor since 1984.
USL column.
I started with like a guide for similar to what Glenn Hauser does, where station guide, what's on the air, and then
now you're in the QSL,
the
QSL part thing.
For quite a few years.
Okay.
And I really appreciate the support you guys out there. It's been amazing this summer. It's unreal. The next column coming out in days is looking really good.
There's the monster.
There's Killer.
There's Killer.
Here's the monster. And and what keeps you in the hobby and in also CIDX? I probably already know a little bit of the answer, why I'm doing this, the passion for radio and for all of this. I would imagine for you guys, pretty much the same.
People.
The people also, yeah.
Radio listening, shortwave listening is a solitary hobby.
Solitary hobby, absolutely.
You're sitting in the basement by yourself.
Absolutely.
You get to come out and meet people across, and we're international, right?
Look at that, guys. Now we're a gang.
Look at that. Well, that's the difference too. Some people said to us that when we were printing hard copy, we had a membership fees of $32 a year.
Yeah.
When we switched to electronic, we
down.
dropped the membership fee down to $10.
Yeah.
And some people said, well, why are you even charging $10? And we thought, like we like you to feel like you're a part of something. Like this
absolutely.
is a club,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you are a member, and you can participate in things. We don't have a lot of expenses. Some of the expenses are this barbecue today. The club covers the expenses for the barbecue, and we do a couple. We have our website and a few other
there's
expenses.
a few things, absolutely.
But mainly, it's to bring people together who have a common interest, and like Mickey said, it's not just a lonely hobby of individuals.
No, absolutely.
We've been doing this barbecue for what? I don't know, 20
time.
years maybe?
We used to have an east one and a west one at the same time, same day, and I think we tried to contact on the amateur radio one time.
Right.
I think the first time I've joined CIDX, probably somewhere, I'd say early 90s, around 1990 or 89. That period of time when I discovered that radio clubs exist somewhere in the world, and I think I've heard it from you were on Radio Canada International giving some tips.
Right. That was on the
RCI
Ian McFarlane's show.
Shortwave Listeners Digest.
Shortwave Listeners Digest.
And I believe one day I was listening and I heard you talking, and you talked about a club, and I think that's when I joined. It's the same time I joined, pretty much at the same time, the Club on Côte du Québec, which was the French side, and I found it just cool, and it also was fun to have that little bulletin come in the mail with all the information, because back then, guys, there's no internet, so your information about where is Radio Romania tonight is basically a club bulletin of some sort, because you just or you decide that you sit down on the radio and you tune around, and anyways, you didn't even know the frequency back then because it was all analog dials, so it's like it's somewhere next to the 9 and the 10 on my dial.
Well, this is where you deserve a lot of credit, though, too, because you've taken new technologies that we have, and you've brought, like when you were reading off the list of where all these people that are joining us via the internet here today, from all over the world.
Yes, absolutely.
This is an international hobby, and here's an international audience. 4 o'clock came, or 2000 UTC, and those people were sitting there waiting for you.
Yep, 80 people.
80 people
watching live right now.
I'm watching the chat now, and we're not monitoring right now, but hi Bob, get well soon, and
yes, Bob,
Chris, and that. Just not having time to answer.
So just a few more names. Anthony DeLorio, hello there. Chris Lodell, Daniel Walsh, Bram P from Pointe Claire. What do we have? Red Wayne, KC2NXP. Down moments in, looking good. Bob Brown says hello, Sheldon. Wish I was there.
We wish we were with you. We were with you, Bob. Hang in there.
Take care of yourself.
We have Ryan CJ3. Terrier, is that a Terrier? I don't know. I don't know my breeds of dogs, so I don't even know what my cat is, except it's a cat. So.
We're not sure what she is either.
Jeffrey Kropp, hello there. Neil Toombs, welcome aboard. Bob Brown. Clara Liston-Priction, sorry for the mispronunciations. Breeze keeping you cool in the sun. Oh yeah, absolutely. Actually it's a perfect day.
It is.
It's not too hot, not too cold. It's just okay, and it's perfect. I guess CIDX barbecues maybe are always like this. I don't know.
We try.
Richard Kruger from Florida. Hello there.
Nice. Yes.
And David Wiles from Illinois. Pretty cool to have everybody on board. Sorry if I miss anyone. Say hello. Fabio Berti from Brazil. And Bobby Burgess says, Sheldon, what is the first radio you ever got? Which was one of my questions anyways.
I have to say, my first real shortwave radio was a Realistic DX160. Okay. And I spent many, many years with that radio. Did a lot of shortwave, a lot of medium wave DXing with that radio. And following that was when we started to hear about digital readouts, and that was the great breakthrough. Okay. And I ended up with a Sony. Here's another beer coming through.
Thomas wants a beer. Hi, Thomas.
Hey, Thomas Witherspoon. Nice to have you here.
Yes, Tom. Hi. Yeah, I ended up after that with a Sony 6800W and a Kenwood R5000. So those are the main radios. The DX160 is around somewhere. It's changed hands a few times, and it ended up back with me again at one point.
Okay,
So
it's one of those radios that's just going around.
exactly.
Well, it's interesting to watch eBay and shortwave radios and
Yes.
the price that they're going for, because people,
Some people are crazy though on eBay.
Well, people had these radios and then they sold them, they got married, had children, and now they want them back, and they're willing to pay anything for them, and they can afford it, which is it's amazing. Get an SDR.
Right. Well,
Sorry,
that's
guys.
the new things, yeah.
Just
No, that's listening to your show, Gilles. We see, so many new people out there who are asking these questions. They're getting new radios, which is really
Absolutely.
good. Because all we keep hearing about is the death of radio. And to see all these people, waiting and tuning into this is really, heartwarming to see.
probably one, 2 out of 3 times you tune in and you see I seem like I'm mad at something or ranting. It's probably because someone somewhere in the chat room said, "Oh, shortwave's dead."
Right.
And when I hear that, it's like, no, it's not. Okay, it's very different. We have to say it. It's very different.
Right.
Dead? No, it's not dead. Not dead. And there's tons of things to listen to, and I try to promote that, and I try to have people, see that it still exists. I got even some old amateur radio operators that say, "Hey, I've left the hobby 20 years ago," and then suddenly said, "I stumbled upon one of your live shows." And you know what? I took my ham radio out of the box and started tuning around. It's like, hey, it's fun again.
Right.
And well, that's what I want to do. This is using new technology to do that.
Well, we're using radio technology to do what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Wireless.
Absolutely.
It's all around us. So it's good. It's good to see new
know.
people. It's good to see the old people coming back. It's great.
Yep, and it's fun to see new people or see. When I see somebody in the chat room says, "Oh, I'm 16 years old or 18 years old, and I just started, or I bought this radio because I watched one of your videos and you said it was good."
Right.
So it's really a lot of fun.
I'm gonna bring somebody else in here.
Yeah, just one last question.
Yes.
And the question would be, where do you see CIDX in the future? It's something that we'll maintain for a long time. And
I think so. We're we're not a huge organization, but we've got a good core group of people. We've actually picked up new people through your programs.
Cool.
Again, we can plug it here if people like a sample bulletin to see what CIDX is all about. Just send us an email, cidxclub@yahoo.com.
So cidxclub@yahoo.com. You can have a sample bulletin.
Right, and all the membership
And,
information is there.
all
If
the
they like to join, they can.
I was looking this morning also. There's this small website, cidx.ca.
Yeah, it needs a lot of work. But it's there.
But the information's there.
The basics are there,
the basics are there, and there are links to some interesting parts of shortwave where you get schedules and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Yep. So,
Okay.
Send us an email. We'll send you a bulletin. And take a look, and the membership's open
Come on,
worldwide.
Come on, guys! Look at these guys. How can you not send an email and say, "I want to have sample bulletin, please"?
Right. We'll electronically autograph it for you. There's 2 people we want to bring over.
Yes, please.
We'll show you that it's not only a male hobby.
Yes, that is true.
Yes.
That is true.
We're going to make room for.
We're going to make room
2 more
for
people.
Look okay for my YouTube?
Oh, you're fine. Yeah. Sit.
My YouTube debut?
Absolutely.
And we'll show you some radios later.
There's never been so much beauty on my show. So
Well, I know Sheldon's got a new hairdo. He's awfully cool.
Dawn, this one wants to come out.
So we have Janice. Hello there.
Hey.
And we have
John Fisher.
John Fisher.
Okay, where's the camera?
And
on that
so
one?
camera's there.
Oh, there. Oh, hi.
Hello.
Hi, Mom.
And
Looking at Sharon. Hi, Sharon. She's behind
sorry,
the
Mom,
camera.
I was not supposed to be here.
You're like talking to Sharon. Okay, talk to the camera like you're talking to Sharon.
Yeah,
She's right
yeah.
behind the camera. And Stan.
So
Hey, Stan.
when it gets too personal stuff, we'll.
Okay.
So explain to us where you came in the radio hobby and the interest behind all of that.
Well, the shortwave radio hobby specifically, my older brother had a shortwave radio, Lafayette HA600A, built like circa 1967. A nice old analog set. And when I was a kid, he used to listen to Radio Moscow, Radio Havana, Cuba, and I thought it was really cool. Listen to these radio stations from these far off places. But I wasn't allowed to touch the radio because it was Big Brother's radio, but I coveted the radio. So he would tune in stations and explain to me about shortwave and what it was, but I was always very envious of my big brother's radio. So when I was older, in my 20s, he had gotten out of the hobby and moved on to different things in his career, and he gave me the old radio. So here I am with this Lafayette HA600A, and I figured out how to build an antenna for it. We used to have a long wire we would throw from our apartment building across the alleyway to the top of the duplex next door with a tennis ball. And sometimes we would miss the roof and it would land on the neighbor's window below, and we would like turn off all the lights and hide and then reel it in and then try again. We finally got this antenna across the alleyway, so we had really good reception. But when I got this Lafayette, then I remember it was Communications World, I think, at the time, which had all the shortwave radio listenings. So I headed out looking for a copy of Communications World, and there was a radio store called Radio Lorenz on St. Catherine Street. And I found a copy of, I think it was Monitoring Times, that had the listings of the shortwave stations.
Oh, I do remember Radio Lorenz.
Yeah, Radio Lorenz.
Oh, yeah.
And there was the application for CIDX. It was like, oh, there's a club with radio stuff. And there was, what street were you guys on, Sheldon? He's disappeared. Anyway, so they used to have their club meetings once a month in downtown Montreal. So Sheldon should be listening. Alan, were you there my first time I walked into the club meeting?
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Okay, well, the first time I walked into the club meeting, there were like all these guys. And Alan was like, are you in the right place, young lady? You remember when I walked in.
I never said that.
No, but a lot of the guys were shocked, like seeing a chick walk into this radio club meeting. But no, I was in the right place, and I had the radio, and we would talk about different radio topics and frequencies. I used to write everything down we talked about at the club meeting. And
you gotta stay here, you know, the count of people watching is going up as you are, we're talking.
Hi.
So
yeah, I'm the YL, man. I'm the chick in the club.
If for one time there's a woman on this show,
hi.
Hey. So
and, I've been a member of the club for now 26 years,
26
I guess.
years.
And
Okay.
we did the Radio Fest. We go to the radio conference in Pennsylvania. We have our barbecues. We used to have our monthly meetings. I remember the first de-expedition we went to down to Hemmingford, this old shut-down motel, and we would have antennas strung out in the fields for like kilometers. I dragged the Lafayette HA600A with me. So this giant analog set, I brought it with me. And all the guys had these digital radios. They had these Drakes and Sonys and nice radios, and here's me with this analog set. I remember getting, I think it was Spain on medium wave for the first time on this thing, and I was all like, oh, this is cool. And then anyway, eventually I graduated into, I got a Sony 2010, a DX398. Since then I've done Juliet's Wild Kingdom on WBCQ, of a couple of radio shows. I hosted the International Radio Report for a while when Sheldon got out of that for a while. I do forums at the SWL Winterfest in Philadelphia about radio on the road. So when I travel, I've been to 84 countries so far. I record broadcast stations in the countries I visit, and I take pictures of antennas and radio stations, and then I present a forum with all the different radio segments and places I've been, and sometimes like film the radio when I'm driving, or get some interesting segments. So I do a forum at the conference. So I've been in the radio hobby and shortwave, AM, FM. Now, the one story I'll tell, which was way before the shortwave, my brother, I just remembered this, he had a little FM transmitter. And because when I was young, I used to sit up listening to records with my brother, and then my father wouldn't let me stay up as late as him because he was older than me. So at one point he strung wires under the carpet and had headphones. He would play the records over the headphones, and eventually my dad caught onto this and ripped all the wires out. So we got an FM transmitter. They transmitted on 91 FM. It was called CMJL, his initials. And he would broadcast all the records that I wanted to hear. All his Rolling Stones and his Bob Marley and all these different record albums that I couldn't stay up late with him to listen to. So he was broadcasting, so I just turned on the radio, and he had a whole radio station. It was just all the requests of all the albums I wanted to hear. Then he started making fake commercials and announcements, and we could be heard all around the neighborhood. So he had an FM, like pirate station on 91 FM when I was a kid.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so, you know, I've had a lot of cool stuff. I love radio. I'm a radio chick, and yeah, there are girls in the hobby.
Yep.
Potable females, I guess.
Yep, absolutely.
I wonder is Steve Carlock on there? Hi, Steve. I don't know if he's on yet.
I don't know. Let's go through.
Anybody else who know me on there? Write something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who knows me? Okay, well, Dawn knows who I am.
Click here. Okay.
Any other CIDX?
Let's
Oh,
just
Chris
go to,
Lobdell.
let's go
Tom
back up a
Witherspoon.
little
Hi,
bit.
Tom.
Okay, Tom Witherspoon is there.
Hi, Chris.
People that haven't said hello also at the same time. David Arden, Paul Midlick.
Who else knows me? Hi, guys.
Alf Bender, John Gould from Maine. Hello there. A DX gal, marry me please, Gareth Scroggins says.
Yeah, I have a lot of antennas. I need some new antenna repairs at my place, so should I look for volunteers who's going to help me fix my long wire antenna for my, I did my renovations at the home, so I had my my dipole for my shortwave hooked into a coax cable into the wall. It comes out in like a wall nipple, just like cable TV. I have my shortwave antenna coming out of the wall. So any more marriage proposals? I have the shortwave antenna coming out of the wall.
So we have
like
Dan Heavens, Guy Kisnell, good afternoon. Fabio from
Hi, guys.
Brazil, hello there. What else do we have? Gregor Scroggins holding my hand up. Daniel Walsh, think about tossing the Degen on the barbecue. No. And
Bob Brown. Hi, Bob.
Bob Brown, hello there.
Oh, hi. Hi, everybody.
So,
I have so many radios. The last Estival Winterfest, I won, what is this, Nordic Satellite 700 that I won. I have a Nordic Satellite 800, I have a DX398, I have a Sony 2010, I still have that Lafayette HA600A.
Okay.
I have a whole bunch of other little radios, shortwave radios, scanners, all kinds of stuff.
Imagine one of you guys, on a blind date, and you get into her home, and you see all these radios.
Oh, Jesus.
It's probably love at first sight.
Yeah, I climbed on the roof of my house when I bought it when I was 28 years old, and I hung upside down with the drill and screwed in my first HF antenna.
Oh man!
On the side of the house, I made like the wood, and I stained the wood for the brackets for it, and I drilled the brackets in with my antenna on the roof, and I know how to string up a dipole.
So now I know who to call, because I'm just up 2 steps on the ladder and on my balcony, and it's already too much.
Oh yeah, no problem. Well, the trick on going on the roof is you go in your bare feet, so like a little monkey. So I feel like I'm gonna fall off the roof. I'm the barefoot climbing on the roof to string up my antenna.
Hey there, Gordon Foster. Janice is great, of course.
Hi.
And
come to the CIDX barbecue. Come to the Winterfest.
You want to introduce yourself a little more?
John Fisher.
My name is John Fisher, and I'm from North Chelmsford, Massachusetts, in the States. And I want to say hello to everybody in the Boston area at the X Club, especially Chris Lobdell, and any of the other Bad X guys if they're watching, and also to Bob Brown down in Pennsylvania. Thinking of you, Bob. And I'm not sure where to start. I guess
okay, you got to start at the beginning.
Let's start at the beginning.
What's your first radio? And
sure.
All right. Well, actually, a little before that, my grandfather on my mother's side was a ship's wireless operator in the 1920s. My grandfather on my father's side was a ham. My father was a ham. So
okay, this is a radio family.
There was always radio percolating in the back of my mind. So, in 1970, my folks got me a multi-band radio, had AM, FM, and the public service bands, and I was for hours listening to the planes, airplanes, police, fire, all that stuff down in Rhode Island. And I remembered hearing about foreign broadcasts.
Okay.
So my father and I hauled a Helicopters SX100 out of the basement, and we got it cleaned up. We put up an antenna, turned it on. First station I heard was Radio Moscow. Station I heard was Radio Netherlands, and I was hooked. That was in the, around 1975.
Okay.
74, 75, and I was absolutely hooked. I sent my first reception report and got a QSL from Radio Netherlands, and to this day I still love getting QSL cards.
Oh, that is fun. It's. I remember my first QSL was like jumping down.
Well, I still feel that way.
Tell him how many countries you've QSL.
Oh yeah, how many?
He's got record numbers.
Oh really?
Oh, I don't.
Come on.
He's the QSL man.
He is the QSL man. No, spit it out.
Give or take, probably about 210 countries.
210 countries.
I don't know. I've lost count of the cards. I've got maybe, I don't know, 1,000.
1,000 QSL cards, please.
Medium wave, I've heard 55 countries, and I've QSL 54.
Okay.
And I don't know how many from the States I've done. I've done a lot.
Okay, and how many awards have you won for your QSL collection?
I've won a few. I can't.
Spit them out. Spit them out.
No, I can't remember.
Sheldon, how many awards has John won for his QSL collection? He's too shy to admit.
No, I've won a few. But anyway.
Yeah. You won't say. He's won a few. Just look up John Fisher from Chelmsford, Mass.
After that,
he's won a lot of awards.
But a year ago, a little more than a year and a half ago, I decided to get my technician amateur radio license, and then I took my general license. And I would say the ham radio is an adjunct to the shortwave radio hobby. I also monitor, the police scanners, VHF, UHF, and all of that. So this is just another adjunct to the hobby, and yes, I'm getting some pretty cool QSLs and meeting some great people who were also, and some still are, shortwave listeners.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of them out there.
What's your ham sign now?
Well, my call sign is Kilo Charlie 1 Foxtrot Tango Juliet. So KC1FDJ, if you hear me, even if you're just an SWL, send me a report, and I'll be more than happy to send you a QSL in the mail.
5x9. Yeah, 5x9.
5x9.
Don't worry about return postage or anything. So I just find the whole spectrum of radio monitoring and listening just a lot of fun.
So I'll have another question. Just gonna say hello to Stephen Wood. Hello, what John says. Stephen Wood. We have R2DPO. Hello there. K Davis, VA3BCB. John Gould, and says it's best radio ever, Sony 2010.
Oh yeah, I love the 2010. Nice.
Bassett Rahman from Pakistan, AP2FLY. Guy Kesnell, hello there, and John Ritson, everybody. It's nice to have familiar faces, new faces, and we're 104 people watching live. It's pretty cool.
Pakistan, assalamu alaikum.
Pakistan, yeah. So, what are your main radios? Like I said, what do you use?
Right now I'm using, for the shortwave, I use a Drake R8. I also have a Kenwood R2000. Then I had a shortwave friend, actually he was a childhood friend who passed away 10 years ago, Joe Lehman, and I have his FRG7 and FRG100. And
so nice radios.
A few other miscellaneous ones I picked up at ham fests and whatnot. And then the ham set, I use a Yaesu 450D, and because I live in a condo with homeowners association restrictions and whatnot, my antenna's indoors, but I'm still able to get Europe and South America and a whole bunch of US states. And
cool.
So it's whole thing's been a lot of fun. And also we have a local shortwave club, BADX, Boston Area DXers. We meet once a month.
It's funny you talk about that, because I was looking at the NARC website, and I saw, I think that's the first club I saw in the list.
Yeah, no, we get together once a month.
Just because B's before C, before CIDX, and I don't, there's bad X's before us. But you're a CIDX member too.
Yes, oh yes, yeah, I've been a CIDX member since the early 90s.
And we've been friends for what, 25 years?
26 years.
Yeah, John's like a brother to me. You know, these guys are like family to me.
My sister.
The reason I went to the NARC website is because I actually had a very basic question. How many radio clubs are left in the United States? Yeah. Also, I wanted to see, and the numbers are down, of course, but
the numbers
BADX.
Are down, but there's still, and I can't urge people enough to. There's a shortwave station you like to listen to, write them. Let them know you're listening.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Looks like we're losing CKZN in Newfoundland on 6160.
Yep.
So I urge people to write. Got to keep at least one CBC outlet still on.
Yeah, I hate that. It's like they just switch out the transmitter and that's it. Hey, we're gone.
And thank God for that.
Well, you're going to talk to Amanda about Sackville, the tearing down of Sackville, the documentary. So she's here. You get to
thank God for WRMI, because they have all these relays.
Yes.
Ukraine, Czechoslovakia, RAE, Radio Tirana, and
I want to focus a little bit on that though, because one of the things.
Let them know that you're listening.
One of the things that's important, because I get this comment from time to time of people saying, "Oh yeah, but Radio Slovakia from Florida is not like Radio Slovakia from Slovakia."
It's radio.
And I always say, look, I rather have that than nothing at all.
Nothing.
And I think that WRMI with the relays, actually, lately, if you look at a North American evening of radio listening, the output on shortwave that you can listen to is actually increased this year if you compare it to last year or the year before, because WRMI has put on many relays of stations gone, and that is cool, and I'd rather have that. And it's still shortwave, and it's you know, and anyways, from Montreal, Florida is almost like Europe.
Okay, well,
So-
I used to listen to RC Radio Canada International and be very grateful for it because it was a voice from home.
Yeah.
When I've worked overseas, when I've lived overseas, I didn't feel so alone in the world because I could tune in RCI on the shortwave. Unfortunately, we've lost RCI, and it's a tragic loss. Remember, but even hearing from working in Haiti and tuning in WRMI and listening to Glenn Hauser's World of Radio. I've got a videotape of it. I'm in like this UN vehicle, and the UN vehicles have the shortwave radio in the dashboard. So I tune it in, and I'm listening to Glenn Hauser, and I'm in Port Salut, Haiti, in the middle of nowhere, and WRMI was broadcasting Glenn Hauser.
It's actually funny to say,
It was
but
a familiar voice, and it
but
was really
it's
nice.
actually funny to say because if you listen to Glenn Hauser's World of Radio somewhere in the world, it's almost like a voice from home because
That's
for
it,
us it's
Yeah.
something, you know.
You know, I grew up listening to Glenn Hauser on various stations, including RCI, and I just want to say about RCI, it was a very sad day for me when they went. Because of RCI, I developed an interest in Canada. I mean, my father was born in Montreal, but it wasn't until I started listening to RCI
That you
that I had a developed
more
a
of a
great
focus,
interest.
yeah. And you
And
know,
I started coming up here, and then I met all these great people. It's just been
you come here every year for
Every year.
So that's
love it.
cool.
I love it.
And of course, you know, I'm the new guy here on at this place here because I've not participated much in any CIDX. I was not, you know, I was a club member for like, you know, a few clubs. I've never been that much of a guy that would go to different events. Although I did, you know, I came to a CIDX Christmas dinner maybe a couple of times in the past, a long time ago.
So
and
have you had fun today?
Absolutely, it's a
So
great bunch of
he's
people.
back. He's got
Absolutely,
it back.
this
And
is
we're not-
every
and we're not
year.
gonna let him go again.
This is every year.
And
You're
your
among
Christmas
friends.
dinner,
Among
and you're
friends.
going to come to the conference in Philadelphia. We're gonna
That I
drag
would
you
like
there.
that, you know. I mean,
Oh, yeah. Yes,
maybe
the
even
Long
set up a
Winter Fest.
broadcast from the Shortwave Fest.
You're talking
That-
about
that'd be cool.
come back. Well, you're with us. We're going to drag to all our events, and you're going to get back in the fold.
You'll love it.
in the van, Joe.
We've got room in the van.
Okay,
Get
no
in the
problem.
van, man.
I will be thinking
Rock and
about that
roll.
very seriously. And it's funny because I think it's the first time you showed up in the chat, Sheldon, that we at some point kind of talked of one of the second time maybe that I saw you in the chat. We started talking about you know, there was a CIDX barbecue coming up, and it was like you know, okay, that could be a very interesting thing. And actually, in the chat room, since I've been looking at the comments go through, and a lot of comments are like, "This is so cool today." Absolutely,
Yeah.
it's fun. It's a different kind of show, also.
That's the nice thing about our local Boston area DX clubs. We get together once a month, and we tell lies about what we feel to each other. But we've developed very strong friendships,
Yeah.
and friendships that have lasted 30 years.
That's the cool thing about radio clubs, also.
Sheldon sneaking back in here.
We've got to do one thing.
Yes.
With John's Rhode Island accent, we
Oh,
should have
God.
put subtitles on the screen.
God bless Rhode Island.
I already got like tons of people that look at this show and say, well, you know, it would be fun to have, you know, subtitles in different languages. It's like,
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, right.
Who's going to simultaneously translate?
look,
But-
I already take a lot of time doing this. I'm not going to start playing around with all of that. No.
But I must say, Jill, that your YouTube shows have been putting some new life back into the hobby in a different way.
Okay.
I'm glad that you've come back and we've joined everything together. Let's give applause for Jill. And we love what you do,
My
but
face is red now.
yeah, but it's really awesome what you do. And we're really glad that you're with us today. And we
Well,
hope
I'm
you enjoy
very
it.
happy to be here. Actually,
It's time to melt it all together. It's time to get it all together.
I'll
again.
be very honest. Okay, I woke up this morning. I was like a little, you know, nervous about, you know,
Mega Tuvai, man.
I'm going to an event where I don't, you know, I've of course everybody that I've met here, I've heard the name because
Yeah.
I've heard it so many times or read it in the bulletin, or you know, but meeting the people is different. And
Yeah,
also
no,
putting a face with everyone.
Meeting the people is great, and people say it's a solitary hobby, but it also can be a social hobby too. And there's all different ways. The internet, I listen every week online because I live in Massachusetts to CKUT, the International Radio Report, and that's a great show. And
there is absolutely a great show there.
Who are just have become dear friends, and even though I only see some of them once a year.
Mais c'est les retrouvailles, man. It's like you're one of us. You were kind of drifted away, but now you're back.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're like the family that kind of a family reunion.
And one of the things that shows up, and for anybody, by the way, that would be watching this, because of course, if we look at the number of people in the chat, the number of people watching, obviously the majority are silent viewers, and in a radio club, the majority are silent club members, if you want. And one of the things that is interesting is for anybody that is a little shy or feels like I don't know if I will fit in, and think about the fact that first of all, in any event like this one, you have the basics. What is the most important thing in meeting people?
Beer.
Have some kind of beer. Food. Well, with
Food.
me, you've got me for a full evening if you have beer. And but there's a basic of radio. So you can't just sit there and have nothing to say at all, because there's a radio side that we can actually talk about. Radio behind us, everywhere.
And I made a side comment one time to my eye surgeon about the shortwave radio. Come to find out, he's a shortwave listener. So you never know. You just never know who's got a radio lurking in there.
The time goes by so fast. We've been here since 1 o'clock. It's already almost 5 o'clock.
Absolutely.
And there's no shortage of topics of conversation with everybody here.
Absolutely.
I know everybody here for years and years, and I just go around. The next thing I know, it's like, wow, the day went by so fast.
And everybody's welcome.
And
and I enjoy everybody's company. I enjoy talking to everybody, and I love you all.
And the first thing,
so happy to see everybody.
Absolutely. And the first thing that I can say for anybody that is not sure that they want to go into an event like this, I walked up the stair and everybody was here, the greetings and everything, and already you feel like you belong here. You belong with these people. It's just we all share a common passion, and it shows. It shows.
So time for you to let some other people come up and
absolutely.
say hi.
So thank you, Janice.
Bye.
And
bye everybody.
See you later.
See you and welcome to Canada, of course. Always nice to
another vice president. Come on.
So,
we got another CIDX vice president.
Another CIDX vice president here.
And we have a special guest as well.
Do you want the
There's
chair?
something that I want to do here. We'll do a little something for the sunshine.
I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, and it's all yours, Bill.
Yeah, we're just going to try and avoid a little bit of the sunshine for the camera. So,
It is bright.
hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how about you?
So, okay, next. No, I was kidding. Okay, so who are you exactly? And you were working on an interesting project from what I hear.
Yeah.
So
my name's Amanda Dawn Christie. I recently finished a 2-hour documentary about the RCI shortwave towers in Sackville, and then another project also about the RCI towers. It was a bit more complicated, called Requiem for Radio Full Quiet Flutter, which was kind of an homage to the site. It wasn't a requiem for radio in general. I'm not someone who says that shortwave is dead, but that site unfortunately was torn down, and I felt it needed to be lamented. So I did that in a documentary and in a performance and simulcast.
okay. Okay. Sorry here, just gonna do some fun adjustments because of the sun. Here we go. So okay. So that's very interesting because as you guys been hearing, she was working on a documentary about the sad story of Sackville transmitter site.
Yep.
And a little more information where we could have that documentary, when, where, how.
That's the hardest question.
That's the hardest question that you probably get asked all the time.
It's all right. It's good for me to get it out there. So the film is finished, but the way it works with films is that first you have to try and do the festival circuit, which means you want it to get screened in film festivals and ideally to win awards to help your chances with broadcast and stuff. So if it's publicly available online, DVD, Blu-ray, screenings in libraries, anything, a lot of film festivals won't touch it because they're very protective. They want the premiere, they want the exclusive rights. So it's screened twice. It won Best Documentary at one festival, but I still haven't had an international screening outside of Canada.
Okay.
So until I do that, I unfortunately, it's not me being a purist, but I kind of have to hold it a little close. And films have a short life. It's got 2 years, so I've got 1 year left to try and get it into a festival in Europe or in the United States.
Okay.
And the problem I'm coming up against is that it's too experimental for mainstream festivals because there's no talking heads. It's a film about radio, and there's all sorts of audio and stories, but it's soundtrack only. It's 2 hours. You're watching the landscapes. You're watching the towers over 4 seasons, and you're listening to people talk like you're listening to radio.
Okay.
So mainstream festivals are like, we don't see any people. It's too experimental. And experimental art festivals are like, it's too narrative. It's too documentary. It's too mainstream for us.
Okay.
And I actually had 2 festival directors and curators ask me, well, we'd take it if you removed all the voices. And I'm like, well, that would be a film I didn't make.
No, that's not exactly it.
So that's where, so it's a bit of a painful question when people are like, when can we see it? And I'm just like, oh, that was 6 years of my life.
Because you gotta understand that, you know, people like us are like, we want to see it.
And I want you to see it so bad. It's so, and then I'm like, well, do I just freaking take it out there and show it? But then I definitely won't get into festivals. So I'm kind of like, okay, hang on, keep trying with the festivals. So
at some point in time,
very soon, hopefully. I'm giving it another officially it has another year, but I'm giving it 6 months and then I'll start. It also takes money to make the DVDs. I did 2 Indiegogo campaigns to pay for subtitling. You talked about subtitling is fucking expensive.
Yeah.
So it's subtitled, but making the DVDs are expensive. So I'm kind of hoping I've got a new job and I'm figuring within the next 6 months, hopefully I can actually get the DVDs made so that once it screens somewhere outside of Canada, I can push those DVDs out. Okay, and hopefully travel around and go to the shortwave festivals. I'd love to come to Winterfest. I'd love to, like, you know, libraries, universities, colleges. I want it out there. It's that stupid kind of protocol of film festivals.
Okay. So,
sorry, you touched on a sore spot.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a question you got to ask.
Yeah,
it's like you can't talk about a product and not say where you can get it.
Yeah. And I want people to see it. I'm happy with it. It's a beautiful. It's.
We've got this great documentary, but
you
sorry,
can't
guys.
See it. Sorry. Yeah. And it's screened mostly to non-shortwave audiences. And
tons of people are saying they're going to buy it. So.
Oh really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ask them how much should I sell it for?
Oh, how much would you pay for a documentary?
What's it?
It's $99.95, personally signed, autographed.
Yeah. I was. God. Yeah. But yeah.
Okay.
So
how long did it take to make?
If you count from when I started the research and funding, it would be 7 years.
7 years.
It's
total.
And it was completely independent. I didn't have a broadcaster or distributor on board. It was arts funding. I mean, it started with a sculpture beforehand. I mean, you talk to people about their first radios. My first radio was a toilet paper tube foxhole radio, and I picked up I was living in Sackville, and I picked up Italian radio, and I was like, I did a kick-ass job. I've got Italian radio.
Okay.
No, I was like next to the Sackville Towers.
Yeah.
And I found out people heard the radio in their sink. And
probably.
I didn't hear the radio in my sink, and you can't just go buy a Sony Syncman. And so I was totally jealous. So I took the schematic of a foxhole radio and transferred it to plumbing. And every paycheck I went and I bought another 12 feet of copper pipe.
Okay.
Some people smoke. I bought copper plumbing. And so I would take this radio around the marsh and I would try, and that's how I connected with the technicians at RCI. I would go for a tour and be like, so I've got this radio sync. When and where should I go to have the best chance of picking up radio?
Okay.
So I became the sync girl, and I learned that, you know, if I went a certain time when someone was working, I could go to the kitchen, we'd make coffee, get out the maps, and they'd be like, okay, well, we're broadcasting to Africa this time. Oh, but it's a digital signal. You want an analog signal, so you should kind of get over there by the broken bridge between 4 and 5 p.m. or like go to this farm. And so they were kind of helping me figure out where to put my sync.
Okay.
And the sync never picked up radio, and then that local people, Sackville's such a small town that I'd be buying groceries or at the cafe. Be like, oh, so have you heard the radio in your sink yet? I'm like, no. And well, let me tell you, my mother used to hear the radio on the clothesline, or when we bought our first house, we heard the radio in the fridge, and that was when I started the film. So if you count that, then it's like 8 years. But if you don't count, and then I started recording people's stories, and then I was like, oh, they're really beautiful. You know, this should be a film. And so then applying, getting money, and filming, and then editing and mixing and subtitling, and yeah.
But you are actually, you understand that making a documentary about something like Sackville transmitter site is a little nuts.
And it's especially
for a subject, because I mean,
especially if you're not including any pictures of people, like you don't see any of the people talking. I've got like 40 people I've interviewed, and you just hear their voices. And I made the soundtrack to stand as a radio documentary. So I did a lot of tests to make sure it was interesting without the images. So anytime it screens at a festival, I get airtime somewhere else in the world to broadcast the audio.
Okay.
So when it screened in Halifax, it was simulcast on WGXC in New York. When it screened in Moncton, it was simulcast on CFUT, no, it was WRMI Miami. And in Sackville, I screened it at the Vogue Cinema on the anniversary of the final transmission. And we broadcast the audio in the Yukon on CFUT in Dawson City in the Yukon. So anytime I screen it, so if anyone out there has transmitter sites and is willing to broadcast the audio documentary when I get screenings, who knows, hopefully I get more screenings. That's the plan. So yeah, it's definitely crazy because you don't see people. It's landscape and
I guess you must have also stories of, I mean, you know, a big transmitter site like that, for a lot of people that don't really know what exactly is happening there. There must be stories of, you know, all these people that have they think that that's some kind of mind controlling device in a field somewhere. Yeah,
and I've got to blend it, and I made a point not to do the sort of like I don't fact check or try to I didn't want to separate fact and fiction. To me, it was really about the local experience of the towers. And so it was, I had interviews with technicians who work there, everything from technical specs about the site to crazy electrical accidents that happened when working on site, interviews with locals who listened to it when they lived overseas in Kuala Lumpur, locals who heard the radio in their fridge, and locals who felt the radio made them dream in other languages and caused telepathy. And I didn't impose my judgment on any of it. I just allowed people, the different voices, to come in and out. And then also theories about the American military involvement and Cold War. So there's everything from conspiracy, technology, history, landscape as well, the history of the land. And I interviewed some Mi'kmaq elders as well about the history of the land beforehand. And there's apparently some ghost stories related to the land, which was really fast. I did not see coming in the interviews. So it's it
has to be you know, some kind of supernatural event, because the signals were so strong from there that it has to be. There's some other forces.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and we have here somebody that is another important person in the Canadian International DX Club, and well,
I'm Gilles Michaud. I've been involved with CIDX since about 1982 when I joined during one of the NR convention.
Okay.
I've started listening to the radio in the mid-70s, and an odd way is that during the big CB craze, my father decided that he wanted someone to get his ham license so he could use it. So he ended up getting me a surplus Army radio.
Okay.
But it didn't exactly go like he planned. I moved more like to shortwave listening than to ham radio stuff. So, and it started from there. So over the years, improved the equipment, went to a Yaesu FRG7, and then a Sony 2010, which I had until a few years ago, which I had to sell because right now where I'm located, listening to radio is near impossible because of noise constraints.
Yeah, noise is amazingly I think the biggest problem today in radio listening is the noise.
Yeah. So, but I keep. I'm still in CIDX. Still keep helping out when I can. And,
And so you have your love for CIDX here. It's something that you feel is important.
Yeah. Well, I've been friends with Sheldon since 1982, and we've done the Hamfest tours. We've done different things. I went to the convention in the States a few times, but budget in the last few years has not permitted that. So.
Okay. But, yes, please.
We're prying people with chocolate.
Oh, just to get food in our teeth.
Thank you. And they're really good, by the way.
Oh my God, yes.
Look, people.
So anyway, that's pretty much my story.
Now our mouth is full.
Jill is another longtime vice president of CIDX, by the way, so we should mention that. We have three of our four executives. Well, 1, 2, 3. Who's missing? Nigel's missing. Nigel's missing.
Okay. I can speak again.
We'll bring you some more people.
And nothing to nothing better than having some kind of vodka drink with some chocolate stuff.
Can I just say, if anyone is, there's some people who are waiting for QSL cards from me. Now my chocolate's melting. I just have to.
Yes.
I'm going to eat the chocolate. I'm talking with my mouth full. Otherwise, the chocolate would get on my fingers. Just before I moved to Montreal, I did Requiem for Radio, which was a 5-channel simulcast where I had airtime on German shortwave service, Austria, WRMI, Monticello, and some radio unofficial other stations. And there were QSL cards and reception reports, and I sent out 56 of the QSL cards. And many people, when they realized there were physical QSL cards, then sent me reception reports. But I was in the middle of moving from New Brunswick to Montreal, and I don't even think I've sent emails to people. So if any of you are people who are waiting for QSL cards from me, I haven't forgotten you, and I'm really, really sorry, but I started a new job and I moved to a new province, and they're with me in a box in my friend's garage, and it might be later this fall, but you will get it. You will get it.
We know those people that send QSL cards 8 years after.
Oh, no, you'll get it before Christmas, but I just want people to know.
Don't worry about it. I understand you so much. I was one of the broadcasts that was actually over pirate radio. One of the broadcasts I did.
Oh, we're allowed to say pirate? Okay.
And yes, absolutely.
I just wanted to make sure.
I actually
unofficial.
I love pirate radio, actually. And it's funny because at one point there was a pirate that was rebroadcasting the audio of my live show.
Oh. Okay.
And I started saying, oh, well, if you hear me on the pirate station, you'll get an EQSL.
Awesome.
But,
nice.
you know, I have a million things to do, and it's like, okay, I got to do that EQSL now. I got to do the EQSL. And you get in the chat every week, like, so when's the EQSL coming? And by the way, there's one coming soon. I told you guys for a few weeks ago. And so I totally understand your...
Well, my dilemma, too, is I designed the QSL cards. I knew I was doing a 5-channel simulcast.
Okay.
But I designed them as if it was 1 channel, and they're printed, they're beautiful. But I didn't think I'd get any reception reports. So when I designed them, I printed 100. I thought, well, these will be nice kind of mementos to promote the piece. And then I got, like, so many reception reports.
Like, okay.
But then I was like, a lot of people, like, I didn't promote it. They figured out that I had 5 channels simulcasting different things that were synced up to a 5-channel. So I had people sending me YouTube videos of them with 5 radios tuned in, and I only had 1 line for the frequency and the date. So then, like, I scribble in Bic pen, like, okay, you got 3 out of 5 stations. Just so you know, this one came from here. This came from, like, and so there's no room on it. It's like my messy handwriting. So I did it in the afternoon with some wine, and so the reason I'm not sending them, it's not just I want to wait till I have another afternoon with a nice bottle of wine, so that you know that I'm good and relaxed when I'm.
And you'll get a really cool QSL card.
Yeah.
So hey, I want to thank you guys and girls, of course. I always say guys because you know there's just always guys. And by the way, somebody asked me in the in the chat, there's not enough women to do a women DX calendar. But it is a good idea, you know. We could be.
There's nothing wrong with guys and calendars too. I mean, a lot of.
Yeah, but guys don't want to have a guy calendar.
No, we
you
don't
know?
want that.
It's like you know, it's like if guys would buy a
January, February, March, April, May,
you know,
June, July.
a fireman calendar or something.
Yeah.
So thank you very much,
well,
very, very nice and really cool, nice personality. I like that.
Oh,
I like
thanks.
to say, Amanda here was telling me a story. She climbs towers also for all.
Oh, she climbs towers.
Your radio guys.
I do have my climbing certification.
So she can put up that antenna on top of that 100 feet
I climbed
mast.
two of the RCI towers. That's the last person on top
She climbed 2 of the RCI towers.
400 footers too.
But I didn't make it to the top of the 400 foot. I mean 250. 200. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Okay, if you'd be with me, I'd be on the tower like this, saying, "Please bring me home, mommy."
On the ground. We're going to bring in some more people.
And Amanda,
right.
yes,
thank you guys.
Absolutely.
We're going to need subtitles again because we're going to Boston this time.
Boston this time.
With a real good Boston accent.
Boston this time.
No, everybody else.
We'll let Eric do this one with you.
So, hello there, mister. Please introduce yourself.
Eric Cottrell from Lynn, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Long-time radio listener of CIDX and the Bad X group.
Okay. Been a long-time member of CIDX?
Yeah, I've probably been about 10 years or so. I've been going to the barbecues probably about 10, 12 years.
Okay. And
I've known the gang up here for a long time.
You come here every year, or?
Yes.
Pretty much? Okay. Okay.
Yes, this is the first year that I brought some equipment with me.
Yeah, he's got some really beautiful toys right there. We're going to show it a little later, but some really beautiful stuff. A ICOM ICR 8600 that I don't want to get too close. I'm going to drool over the radio.
Yeah, Raquel, I brought my
also it's got
Raquel 3791.
The Raquel receiver there,
which is one of the, I hear it's the last commercial Raquel that had a operator front panel. A lot of the newer commercial radios are just like little cards that plug into cage slots.
Okay.
And they use computers to tune them.
And the guy is like amazing, because we were talking earlier about everything that he's done and everything he was doing, and it's like the knowledge of this guy and everything that he's all the hardware tweaking that he does, and it's amazing. Amazing.
I also brought the SDR play, the RSP.
You got the RSP, SDR play, okay.
And I have a couple other receivers at home. I go down to the Winter SWL Fest. I help Dan Robinson, another long-time person in the hobby, do what we call the listening lounge. We allow attendees to come and play with some premium radios. I try to, we try to rotate it.
Okay.
All like last year, he brought a couple of JRC radios.
What's your main receiver at home? What would you use most of the time?
For HF now, I use Watkins Johnson WJ8711 that I bought, and it's about the same vintage as the Raquel. They're both first generation DSP radios, so they're like a very early SDR.
Okay.
But in a format that of the age of the 90s with radio, so it doesn't really have the bandwidth to have like the big spectrum display, but we put an analog spectrum display on them.
What is the first receiver you've ever had?
Well, the first radio I had was like an just an AM transistorized radio when I was 7 or 8 years old. I remember riding on my bicycle, listening to the 1967 Red Sox World Series.
Okay.
Another interesting thing with the Red Sox is I moved down to Florida, and a gang of us from Massachusetts went down to Florida, and we had a company that was in amusement equipment.
Okay.
And so there was, in 1978, there was a playoff between the Yankees and the Red Sox, and they were bemoaning the fact that we weren't able to listen to the game. And so I had a Panasonic RF 2200, which I still have. And I tuned in, and we actually listened to the game with AFRTS, the Armed Forces Radio Television Service.
Oh wow, I remember that.
Unfortunately, the Red Sox lost, but we were able to listen.
It is true. I remember that the American Forces rebroadcast of sports events.
Yes.
Oh God.
And also they broadcast commercial radio. Like I remember listening to Paul Harvey on that rather than on the local radio. My first shortwave radio was a Halifax SF.
Very nice. Nice receivers.
High school, yeah.
Nice receivers.
Old receiver.
Old but good.
And this was back in the 1970s, and then I got the Panasonic RF 2200 and then the Sony 2010. I have a whole bunch of different receivers. I like to play with radio a little bit.
Cool. And you are, of course, member of CIDX. What aspect of CIDX do you like the most?
Well, I like the camaraderie with the. I know a lot of the people. I like the interesting articles in the bulletin, and I like the electronic bulletin. So
okay, that is,
I support them. And being in New England, I'm basically about the same latitude as southern Canada.
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
A lot of the people, a lot of what people in eastern Canada can hear, I can hear. So.
Like I always say, you know, for example, when we look at the DX clusters for amateur radio, and I always tell everybody what I do is here, if I see amateur stations contacting in the northeast of the U.S., well, there's a pretty good chance I'll hear that station also here in Quebec because we're in the same general vicinity, and so that's about what you're saying here is on the shortwave broadcast scale. If you know, if I hear something here in Montreal, there's a good chance I'll hear it also.
Well, yeah,
over there, you know.
I do a lot of listening on the local VHF, UHF, and I'm very interested in digital signals. Even on HF, I did weather facts, I did radio teletype.
Yeah, you do a lot of digital stuff.
Yeah,
actually.
A lot of digital stuff.
It's a big digital guy of all kind of digital, not just on HF, but on the VHF, UHF
P25. As a ham, I do a lot of stuff with the amateur radio DMR. There's a couple of nice DMR repeaters there in Montreal that last year I brought up my DMR radio and talked to.
We have Thomas Witherspoon that's saying in the chat room that you got to convince me to go to the Shortwave Fest.
Well, yeah, it's really fun, and he goes every year. And,
we gotta work it out to that happens for sure.
Yeah, as Sheldon said, he's got room in the van.
Yep. That you know what? It's I think it could be very, very interesting, and I will be very seriously thinking about that for sure.
And I really like the program. I can't seem to get to watch every week, but I do look at some of the older shows and
thank you.
And tune in. You know, one time I was out shopping in the car, and I took my phone and was actually mobile listening to.
A lot of people do that. They use their smartphone. You know, they're not at home. They use their smartphone and start watching my show. It's just.
Well, it was mainly listening to the show.
Yeah,
since I'm driving.
Since you're driving, yeah, it's better to listen to the watch while you're driving. Yeah. That's safer. So, hey, thank you very much for that little moment, and it's nice to have you on board. And I really hope we will see each other again at other events. Because,
I mean, come down to the Winterfest.
I have to. Yeah. Thank you very much, Eric. And just a little break for a second. You're watching the Shortwave Show. This show is coming to you from Greenfield Park, which is south of the island of Montreal.
Well,
and
actually, east. It's one thing that's interesting
Southeast.
is the South Shore is
Southeast.
actually
it's kind of east. Yeah. So, of course, this is the Canadian International DX Club Barbecue. One thing I want to mention quickly, of course, is that one of the things that keeps me on the air is donations. I have to annoy you a little bit with that all the time. Yeah, exactly. 2 ways that you can actually help me out. There's a Patreon account where I already have 12 patrons helping me every month. Patreon.com/radio and computers, where you can set up things to give me a little something every month, or just a one-time donation. Be careful the way you set it up, and for some reason when you do a live show, there's always planes passing by. You know, where I live, it's normal. It's the corridor for the airport. There's a plane every 2 minutes. But it's surprising here. It's like, I think it's the 3rd plane since we started.
St. Hubert Airport.
Yeah, of course we're close to St. Hubert. That's true. So he's probably learning how to fly. So if we have a parachute, something. And also PayPal at paypal.me/shortwave. Another great way to send me a little something. You guys, I couldn't do this without your donations. It's part of, me being able to be here to do this all the time, to take several hours and do several shows, and you know, I'm thinking of even doing more shows. So you know, it's helps me really continue in everything I do. And thank you for those that have donated. I do understand that some people cannot donate. It's quite all right. And for those that never did donate and love the show and watch it all the time, well, maybe think about it. And also, don't forget that Monday is Radio/Eclipse Day, starting at 1800 hours UTC. We will be live from Montreal that time. Here in Montreal, the eclipse will be about at 60%. It reaches its peak something around 2:38 p.m. And we will kind of experiment, see, is there some kind of shortwave or medium wave effect when a solar eclipse happens. So we'll have, of course, we'll be in on my living room. So basically, we'll have the big screen. Half of it will show a feed of the eclipse from different cities in the United States. The other half will show radio stuff, my SDR, and it's going to be half astronomy, half radio. Astronomy being another passion of me. So we're going to talk about that. And so we're live earlier than usual, 1800 UT. That's 2 p.m. Eastern time for the East Coast of North America. And hey, my name is Gilles, and we are having a lot of fun here at the CIDX barbecue. We have our killer dog that is here. And so, hey, Sheldon.
I brought in another guest.
Hello, hello.
David Aslang.
Hello, David.
And we wanted to talk about the International Radio
Yes,
Report.
please. This is a great show every Sunday. And it's funny because as I was setting up, I was hearing David talk, and I was like, well, it's definitely the voice on CKUT. So
we are coming up to a 30th anniversary of the radio
anniversary.
show.
Wow.
CKUT is a campus community radio station at McGill University in Montreal. And I started the show with an old friend of ours who's no longer with us, Bill Westenhaver, back in 1987.
Wow.
At the radio station.
Yeah, I remember when it was with Bill, the show with Bill.
Yep, and it's a show about radio, kind of like what we're doing here. It's a half hour every week, and different people have done the show over the 30 years. I started with Bill, and then Janice and Steve Carlock.
Yeah, I remember Janice. I remember Janice being...
And then I came back, and David's the newest recruit to the show. He's been with us for, what, about 4 years? 4 years? Okay. So yeah, we do the show every Sunday morning live, 10:30 Eastern, 14:30 UTC.
Yep.
It does live stream on ckut.ca.
So ckut.ca, and so it's 14:30 UTC right now for the summertime. Right. And of course, you can listen to it live on the ckut.ca webpage. And of course, there's the recorded
archives are there.
Archives are there for the show when you want to listen to it.
Yep.
And okay. And what? Just a question. Yeah. Okay.
David's our techie guy. He's one of those.
I'm more electronics.
More electronics. Okay.
Audiophile guy, and so I'll let him tell you a little bit about.
Okay.
What
and just before we go to David, how did the idea behind that show start?
The station went on FM. Prior to that, they were on a campus closed-circuit station at McGill University. And they applied for an FM radio license, which they received. And they decided they were going to go 24 hours a day with programming. But they needed programming.
Okay.
So they put out a call, Montreal-wide, looking for people who would like to do a radio show. So for some strange reason out of nowhere, I thought, oh, maybe this would be fun. And I wrote up a proposal about doing a show about radio. So what we're doing here. And we came up with International Radio Report because we wanted to talk about radio around the world. And I took the proposal to the station manager at the time, and it mentioned shortwave listening and DXing and all this stuff.
Okay.
She got the proposal, she called me up, she says, please come down and see me. We went to see her. She looked at it, she said, I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, but go ahead.
Okay.
And that was the birth of the show, and it's been going ever since.
Okay.
So.
And do you have an idea of the audience that you have during the show?
Well, the station doesn't participate in ratings, so we don't know an exact number. But we do know we have a Facebook show, a page for the show, International Radio Report on Facebook, and we have over 400 and some odd members, is it now, or just 380 or 370, something like that. So we know we have at least a group for.
Okay.
And we figured the number of people who have taken the time to join a Facebook group is probably more than that who just casually listen.
They just listen, from time to time.
And we know there are people who listen who don't know what shortwave is. They don't know what DXing is, but they're interested just in radio in general and the stuff that we talk about.
A great example. I am a listener to almost every Sunday, I'm not part of that Facebook group for that show.
Right.
I didn't subscribe to the Facebook group for that.
So there are more people out there listening.
Absolutely, and it's it's okay. You guys gonna make an image out of that, but it's my Sunday morning, go into shower time and listening to some radio.
Whoa.
So
All right.
So you guys are in the shower with me for some reason, and don't get any ideas here.
No.
And so it's fun listening, and it's a great show. It has about one part for international stuff and a lot of local stuff also.
Yeah.
Like
the
for
content
example,
really varies based on what's going on out there in the world of radio.
Yeah.
Sometimes
absolutely.
it'll be all local stuff. Sometimes it'll be all international. It can be ham radio. It can, like tomorrow's show. Actually, we're going to have some of the people here as guests.
Okay.
But like one thing that David reports every week is the solar propagation.
Yes.
So we call it space weather.
Yeah.
So solar conditions. So people know what's going on with that. And David likes to keep us up to date on CKUT news as well. So it's a lot of different stuff. Some of it might interest some people and not others, and vice versa. So
I remember when these guys were broadcasting the weather from, I think it was Radio New Zealand's Pacific
that
weather.
was way back. Yes,
way back, because they had to have a weather bulletin, from what I understand, but nobody said
from where.
Right. So they would have the Radio New Zealand weather for the Pacific. That was kind of fun. And there was something that came up that I lost. So
one of the things that and I'll let David talk about this, that we get David to talk about every once in a while, is the hunt for old radios, the quality of radios, looking for old radios that are much better than new ones in some cases, restoring things, and where to go find tips on how to do that sort of thing.
Oh, that's going to be interesting.
That's
going to be very,
I'll let David talk to you for a bit here.
Cool. Hey, David. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you get just a little bit closer so that the microphone picks up better? Because it's picking up, but sometimes the wind and the barking dog.
Yeah, I'm not so much of a radio person like a lot of the people here. I'm more of a electronics.
So you're an electronics guy.
Yeah, and that's how I met Sheldon, is at a Hamfest. And I'd see Sheldon at the Hamfest, and I'd offer to give her my hand every once in a while.
My uncle was an electronics repair guy. I've always had fun dabbling in electronics. And one thing, of course, is anybody that plays around with electronics has some kind of interest also in everything that is electronic, of course. So radio is included in there also. So there's part of it that, of course, is radio at a certain point. Yeah.
Because I was more into audio. I worked for some major audio distributors here in Canada.
Okay.
And I worked at a flight simulator company. I now work for another aerospace company. But most of my hobby has been based on electronics, the love of electronics. It started at a young age when I used to drag old radios home, and people would toss out old radios and drag them home and see if I could fix them, and if I couldn't fix them, I'd cannibalize them for parts.
Okay. So you still do that today? Do you go around?
What I'm doing a lot of these days, I fix a lot of guitar amps for friends of mine that have bands. I do a lot of audio.
Okay.
A lot of the receivers and that from the 70s and that, people are looking for them now because they find out the modern day stuff doesn't really play music like the old receivers from the 70s and the 80s. So I find a lot of people are picking these up now, and they're not in the best of shape. They need to be recapped and that, and they bring them to me and they say, can you fix this back up the way it was when it came from the factory? So I've been doing a lot of that, amplifier and receiver restoration.
So dabble in electronics.
My taste
play music?
It's a workshop for doing electronics.
Okay. Do you sometimes listen to the radio or?
More FM than anything. I'm more of an FM nut. There I go. Sometimes on Saturday nights, Friday nights, Sunday nights. I'll go on FM and I'll
darn wind.
And I'll
thank you very much.
I'll tune around on the FM and see what's playing locally. Not much more than that. How I met Sheldon is just at the Hamfest, because I would go to Hamfests more for the electronics end of it.
Okay.
And I would give Sheldon a hand.
Of course, it's a great place for that.
Yeah, and so one day, Janice, this is when Janice was doing the show with Sheldon, and she wasn't that coming Sunday, and the following Sunday, he said, what are you doing next Sunday? I said, why? He says, you want to come in and do the international radio report?
Okay.
And I said, okay. So I was like a fill-in for a while.
Okay.
Doing the show with Sheldon.
And finally it became
And then when Janice then left, Sheldon asked me if I wanted to do it full-time.
Okay.
And so I've been doing it, like Sheldon said, for about 4 years now.
Okay. Well, that's cool. That's cool. Okay. Having a lot of fun. And so he's one of the voices you will hear.
Yeah, I'm one of the voices, and I'm not a pure radio person, but I enjoy. I've always listened to the international radio for a long, long time. So
yeah.
It's kind of weird to have been a listener to the show and be like doing the show.
It's one of those things that you never think is going to happen. It's you're a fan of something, or you're there's something of interest, but you someday by the the way life works sometimes, it's like you stumble across something and then it's like, oh, I'm part of that now.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah. There's a side to it. Like, for example, I always thought it'd be fun to be in a radio show or something, because it gets to, for example, me, one of the things that I loved doing when I was young was like filling these little transmitters and broadcasting music and doing like my little radio station, on AM or so this is interesting because it's a little bit like that. You're broadcasting and it's a radio station which has a lot more power than a little transmitter in your backyard. And,
well, now you remind me something of my youth.
Uh-huh.
When I was young, what we used to do, we used to have those little two-way walkie-talkies.
Yeah.
And what we used to have a big kick of doing was people had television antennas on the roof of their houses back in those days in the 60s. And we found out that if you pointed the antenna of that walkie-talkie to the television antenna, you could talk to them through their TV in the house. So we'd go around after supper time in the summer and pointing at people's TV antennas and talking into their TVs. And some of them weren't too happy about this, if they were watching the news.
I can understand that. I can understand that. One thing that I did when I was young is I had a little kit of 150 electronics experiments, and you'd put the little wires, and one of the transmitters in there was a tone transmitter. It always transmitted a tone. But what I would do, because just the way they want you to do it, it just barely makes it to the kitchen, And what I would do is, first of all, put a little more power in it, and then I would plug in 50 feet wire in the little antenna spring, and it was something that I had a lot of fun doing. When I was going to a friend's house, I was like, "Oh, your mom is listening to the AM radio." I would put the tone right smack on the same frequency she's listening to, and it was overpowering whatever she was listening to. But at home it never worked, because at home it was always I feel like I'm on a TV show. People giving me notes everywhere. At home it never worked, because at home what would happen is that my mom would always say, "Gilles, what are you doing?" Yeah, it doesn't work. It's always me. Always my fault. Same thing when the power went out at home. It was always my fault. And probably you too, because if you're in electronics, you probably tripped a breaker or blew a fuse here and there.
Luckily, I never got electrocuted, because when I was 11, 12 years old, I was fixing televisions, and I'd play around in the high voltage where
that's
30,000 volts.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
And luckily, I'm still here today. I didn't get electrocuted from that.
Same for me, because I remember doing one thing with a friend of mine where I would show him that if you take the coil in the back and turn around the picture.
Yeah, you can make the picture
go. And I remember my uncle one day seeing me do that and said, "What are you doing? You're gonna get electrocuted, man." It's like, no, it's fun.
Yeah.
It never happened. Yeah, well, it could have. It could have.
It could have. Well, we played dangerously.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, well, thank you for being on the show.
Hey,
Anything you want to add? Anything?
Well, just to the people who listen to the International Radio Report, thanks for supporting us. Funding drive's coming up in October, so think of us when the funding drive comes, and keep listening to us. Sheldon and I enjoy doing the show every Sunday.
Well, thank you for being here.
We'll have to have you in.
Yes, absolutely. That's what Sheldon was telling me, and
be on the air with us.
And now it's fun because I have a face with that voice. I had one because I've seen Sheldon so many times, but I was missing another face. Now I've got the face with the other voice.
So do some of the listeners.
Yeah, absolutely,
who are watching this today.
So thank you for giving me a little bit of your time.
Yeah, I encourage people to keep up with the hobby too.
Absolutely,
it's
it's
an
important.
interesting hobby.
It's absolutely
and,
very important.
Keep up with it. It's and try to interest younger people in radio, because that's the sad thing we see here in Canada is that the interest from the youth is not too strong.
No, that is a major issue. I think with every hobby, the young generation is not super interested. You know, it's like, why the hell should I listen to the radio when I can stream it on my phone? Yeah, okay.
It's not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same at all. At all. So thank you very much for
thank you for coming to the barbecue.
Well, it's super fun, and I'm enjoying myself a lot.
Okay.
So,
thanks a lot.
So I want to say hi to a few new people in the chat room. So anybody that I've not said hello yet, please say hi. We have TOT, hello there. We have Alberto Agostino from Florence, Italy. Hey there, nice to have you here. And it's pretty cool saying that he started his interest on shortwave and that he finds my service fantastic. Thank you, Alberto, very, very nice. And sorry for the microphone sometimes. It doesn't win all the time. Sometimes we have a little wind gust, but it doesn't seem to be too bad. As in the sun now is out of the camera, which is also something nice. And what else do we have? Richard Tribble in Sherbrooke saying hi to Sheldon. So Richard Pattison, hello there, nice to have you here. Gerald Burns. We have Mr. Roman, hello there. More girls, please. Well, we only have 2 girls, so I don't think that Sheldon's wife would like to come to the camera and talk about radio. Yeah, of course, you know, they're guys.
But guys are asking for more
guys,
girls?
Absolutely.
I got somebody for you.
Chris Freitas.
I'm gonna get Jim in, ham radio operator, Montreal Amateur Radio Club.
Okay, cool.
And sit in
cool.
as well.
Please do. So, Chris from Memphis, Tennessee, hello there. Mick H, hello there. Nice to have you here. Southern Illinois, Sam. Nice to have you here. Does anyone speak French or at the DX Club? Well, it's a Canadian club that is English language based, but of course a lot of the people here are bilingual, speak French and English, like me, and but it is, you know, a Canadian club that is English, of course. Hello there from Venezuela, Jesus Ernesto. Nice to have you here. Oxford Shortwave Log. Nice to have you here. Pretty cool. And am I going to have a beer review today? No, I have Palm Bay. It's a vodka drink. So that's what I'm having today. And I'm trying not to drink too fast because I don't want to be wasted later on. And I know you guys like it when I get wasted while I'm doing the show, but and no, it's not the Canadian club as in the rum. It's the Canadian International DX Club. Charlie Loudon Boomer, hello there. Nice to have you here. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Hi Mapper from Moscow. Hello there. Nice to have you here. Everybody, pretty cool to have you on board. We're 100 to 120 people pretty much. So nice to have you on board. So, hey mister, Who are you exactly, and what do you want to talk about exactly?
My name is Jim Hay. Well, as Sheldon said, I'm probably the main amateur radio operator here.
Okay.
For me, radio is radio. I've been active in CIDX or shortwave listening since the 70s.
Okay.
Probably joined the club sometime around Sheldon, but also just interested in radio generally. Got active also in the early 90s in amateur radio. Been president of the Montreal Amateur Radio Club for 15 years. I'm now secretary-treasurer for 5 years. Been treasurer of the Radio Amateur de Quebec Incorporated for the last 5 years. I'm now an assistant director of Radio Amateur de Quebec. So
okay.
You name it in radio, I've probably done it.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. So you, of course, do a lot of amateur radio because of that. Do you do a lot of listening too, or?
I've been, well, as the list I just gave you implies, I've been involved more in administration and everything else. But yeah, over time, yeah, I've done a fair amount of. I used to be primarily interested in maritime radio.
Okay.
Ship to shore and that.
Okay. Okay.
So particularly when up until about 10 years ago, my family owned a cottage, did a lot of. Had the real estate to put up some decent wire antennas. Was able to do some listening there. Okay. Did a fair amount then, and then. Since then, it's been a bit of amateur radio activity, mostly on VHF.
Okay. What is your call?
My call is Victor Echo 2 Victor Echo.
Victor Echo 2 Victor Echo. That I've heard probably a gazillion times while listening to different frequency ranges.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that, you know, if I would pop up QRZ.com here and enter that call, that it's like in, you know, when it remembers things that you've searched in the past. And I'm pretty sure that call would pop up.
Yeah,
like, oh
my
yeah,
call sign will pop up with all sorts of things.
So I do a lot of amateur radio activity. What frequency ranges do you mainly
these days?
enjoy?
If I'm active, I'm mostly on 2 meters. I'm interested in 6 meters, but at the moment I haven't been able to. Until I can remove a tree in my backyard, I can't get a tower up. At which point, then I'll get back on HF. And
so you're not on HF?
Not on HF at the moment. I got 3 radios that are waiting to get hooked up.
You've been in the past.
I have been in the past.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Doesn't it miss? Is that
I
something
miss it a bit.
I
miss it a bit. I miss 6 meters more.
Yeah.
Just because
6 meters is particular.
I find it an interesting band.
It's very, very, very
it's a challenging
particular.
band.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, sporadic E-skip pops up and you start.
Yeah, that's the thing. I kind of find that more interesting than HF. HF is a different kind of challenge, depending on the band and that. 6 meters is I've always found it fun.
I was so surprised I think it's in early July. I actually was checking out a amateur mode JP65 on 6 meters and was amazed to hear a Brazilian station.
Yeah.
First time I heard Brazil on 6 meters. This is 6 meters for those that wonder what frequency range that is. It's the 50 to 54 megahertz VHF amateur band. So it's not in the shortwave spectrum. It's not in the HF spectrum per se, but with different propagation modes like sporadic E-skip, for example, or I guess very intense solar activity.
Yeah,
probably.
It's very different from the higher VHF bands, and it's sort of got some of the characteristics of
it has
shortwave,
like part of the HF characteristics and part of the 2 meter band characteristics.
The challenge I like about it is it can be very local.
Yeah,
I mean, you can hear something, and somebody down the block won't be able to get it.
Is there a lot of activity in 6 meters around here?
These days, no, because the conditions.
Because it seems, you know, there's no sporadic E or anything. I don't seem to.
There's less now. It tends to go with the sunspot cycles.
Yeah.
The sunspot cycles at its peak, everybody's into 6 meters, and 10 meters as well. And when sunspot cycles are at their valley, at the bottom of the valley, everybody's already sold the radio.
Okay.
You want to buy 6 meter radios. You do it.
I'm pretty sure some.
You do it when it's.
I'm pretty sure there are some 6 meter fans that probably, because I see it with 10 meters. A lot of people tell me, well, 10 meters is never open. And, you know, even on my channel when I did a rundown of amateur bands. And one of the things that I see all the time is, well, 10 meters, there's nothing there. I don't know why I would invest in a radio or, you know, it's like, well, that's because you don't listen.
It's because you're not there at the right times.
Because if you listen regularly and if you understand also what can make 10 meters, you know, open or not, and there's tools on the internet also for that.
Sure, we do 6 meters. The field day this year in June. You know, everybody said, well, why bother with field day, with 6 meters on field day? Because, well, it's not going to be open. We did 160 contacts on 6 meters in a band that was supposed to be closed. So, and I think we got some on 10 meters.
And 6 meters is, and it's a little bit like 10 meters also has that property. It's, well, I won't tune in, because that's one thing I hear often. I won't tune in because that band is not going to be open at this time or at this time of year or that. And, it's always, for me, it's a mistake not to tune in.
Try it, because it may be there.
Because you never know.
Yeah. That's what I like about 6 meters. It's just that unpredictability of give it a shot, it might happen.
And when it's there, it's cool.
It's great.
It's absolutely cool.
It's great.
Anything else you want to add?
That's about it.
That's about it. Well, thank you very much.
Like for me, anything radio is, like David, I've haven't for a while, but anything to do with radio, I love to take them apart, put them together. Hopefully, I don't have spare parts.
Cool.
There we go.
What are your radios?
Right now, I've got a couple. The shortwave. Somewhere I've got an old Icon IC whatever, but these days I've got IC 718.
IC 718.
TS440 and
TS440.
TS 820. 830 rather.
TS 830. Okay, these are great radios.
They're good radios. They're all solid.
Great radios.
Good solid radios.
Good radios.
The 830 is a nice radio, and you can't play it.
But you had to say to somebody that wonders if should be like me, for example, that wonders should I go and get my amateur radio license?
Why not?
Why not?
It's fun. It's the beauty of amateur radio is it's got aspects of it for everybody. If you're into emergencies, we had during the Great Quebec ice storm, we had 700 operators all over the province.
Oh, that's the example I give all the time. Damn wind.
It really is true. I mean, we hear about amateur radios and emergencies. It really does happen. During the ice storm, we had, I personally sent operators into Gore Township, where ours was the only radio system that worked.
Absolutely.
And for anybody that was in Atlantic Canada a couple of weeks ago when the internet failed, guess whose radio system didn't fail? The police failed, but any of the trunking radio systems, they failed. Most of the amateur radio systems, guess what? They still work.
That's what I always say. I've given that example so many times on the live shows that if the amateur radio community is extremely important, because in time of emergencies, and the ice storm did show that.
And that's why. But there's aspects of amateur radio for everyone.
It's just amazing how the help that you can get from the amateur community.
And like you were saying about the group here today, it's another group of people that you get to know, and the social contacts are great as well.
Absolutely, it's a fun thing, and of course there's of course the amateur radio club. Yep. They have meetings also, I imagine, regularly.
We have monthly meetings, September through May, and then we have field day in June. We don't meet at Christmas time because our club meets on the last Wednesday of the month.
Okay.
Which means we usually fall somewhere between Christmas and New Year's, so there's no point in having a meeting.
Okay.
You're either too hungover or it falls on New Year's Day. So we don't do that. But we have monthly meetings with different topics, operating topics, technical topics, whatever we find is interesting. We've got at the moment we've got 61 members with about 20 showing up.
Pretty cool.
It's a good group.
Do you see that amateur radio has less participation lately than in the past? Would you say that less people seem to be inclined and going?
Yes and no.
There. Okay.
Yes, there appears to be less activity.
Okay.
But then a lot of, I just did a radio class this year. I teach the radio class for our club. We had 9 students, all of whom have disappeared somewhere. Now, where did they go? I know in past years we see a bunch of them disappear onto HF.
Okay.
Your next door neighbor could be on HF and you never run into him.
Yeah.
There's that.
Absolutely.
Then you look at the VHF modes. A lot of guys go on the 2 meters and stay there. They're either on simplex or you may not hear them on the analog repeaters, which is where we all look for them. But there's DMR repeaters, there's D-Star repeaters, there's Fusion repeaters. So they've all gone somewhere. So is the activity less? Maybe. In some regards, yeah, there is less activity because some people have gone to internet that just want to chat and that.
I do see
the fascination for radio is there. It's still there, and there is still activity there.
Coming from a time where there was some period where I would listen a lot of scanners, and I remember listening a lot to the 2 meter band.
Yep.
And one thing that I do notice today is it's quieter on the 2 meter band than it was about 20 years ago.
Yeah. On the other hand, you'll hear more activity on 220 than you used to.
Oh, okay.
You may hear more activity on the 440 than you used to, because some people have gone there. Like I say, some people you'll hear more activity instead of on the repeaters. You'll hear some on simplex. So in some cases, they've gone different places. In some cases, yes. I mean, is there less activity? Yeah, there may be.
Okay.
But on the other hand, there also may be, you know, if there's less interest in activity, then why has my club got more members now than it had 10 years ago? So the interest is still there. How it gets manifested is another story, but the interest is still there. The fascination, everybody's fascination for wireless, it's still there.
Okay. Absolutely.
You know, people look at the laptop and say, well, how can it talk? There's no wire.
It's true that's something that I didn't think about, because you know, one of the things I did see was there's less activity on 2 meters. Yep. But it is true that some hams move on to HF.
And it's as busy as it ever was.
And a lot of hams that go to HFs don't go back to 2 meters or things like that. You know, there's also, you've got to face it, there's also that, and I've heard that so many times on the bands, on HF bands, a lot of hams saying, hey, VHF 2 meter is glorified CB for some HF hams.
For some people it is. Also, you got to realize that 20 years ago, 2 meters was very active during rush hour from people driving to and from work. Now they're all either illegally talking on the phone or texting, but they're not on the radio anymore. And part of it is, you know, I mean, I hear people say, "Well, I don't carry a radio because it's dead." Well, yeah, if you don't, you know, it's going to be dead if you don't carry the radio.
Absolutely.
So we're all just as guilty. I admit to it too. I should carry a radio around more than I do.
And I guess there's ups and downs. I mean,
sure,
if I look at my hobby, I've been active a lot, but I've had down times where I was not listening much. Yeah. And in the ham community, it's the same thing.
Everybody in their life has things, you know,
and depending on what happens.
More active and less active, you know, life happens.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now in the chat room, everybody's telling me to get my ham license now.
Of course, starts in January.
We have Radical AM that says, Bert K2OIK says his 9-year-old daughter got her license. There's no excuse. Stop making excuses. Okay, I'll do what I can to get my license now. So
it's not for everybody, but for the people that get into it, they do tend to enjoy it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure.
It's radio. It's another aspect of radio.
I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it. That's for sure. One thing that I will enjoy more, because I'm a long distance guy. Yeah. I'm a guy that likes, you know, far away stations. I don't want to communicate with, you know, my next door neighbor or the other side of town. So I know that if I am into amateur radio, I probably will want to jump as fast as possible into the HF side.
There's a lot more challenge to HF communications and figuring out when you're going to be able to get to where.
Yeah.
And is it going to work, and how's it going to work, and how do you make it work, and do you really need, you know, all the power in the world, or, you know, will 100 watts do? And the answer is, yeah, build a decent antenna and it'll work.
Yeah, and one thing that we
My most embarrassing contact was blowing a kilowatt to a guy in northwest Kentucky that was using 1.5 watts back to me.
That's okay. Okay. That means
scorched trees on the way down, and we could barely hear him on the way back.
It's like those stations from Europe on the HF bands that, you know, have like tremendous power, and in every contest you have these stations that you'll hear all the time.
Yeah.
These are like the powerhouse of the ham bands. You know, it's just crazy. And
Don Moment would know about those.
One of those things, also one of the things that we got to never forget, basically, is that, you know, amateur radio is an experimental thing.
Yep.
It's still there, and there's lots of things we still don't know about radio communication.
There's a lot of stuff in propagation we don't know about.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of new modes and bands new modes we're figuring out. We're starting to work on higher and higher bands.
Absolutely.
Believe it or not, laser is part of amateur radio as well.
Yeah. There's tons of things, and there's things we don't even know, and as you search more, you learn that there's, like, you know, specific groups of amateur radio for very specific things, and it's so it's a huge world.
It's a hobby it's a bit of a hobby for tech geeks. I mean, if you look around, I got into amateur radio just at the time when the internet was starting to become commercial. And what I found interesting was the part of amateur radio that first sucked me in was the idea of interfacing radio with computers and computer networks.
Okay.
So this whole what they then call TCP/IP, which is the internet protocols. and merging them together. And all of the names I saw of guys that were developing those protocols on amateur radio, guess where I see their names now? They're all at the forefront of technical developments on the internet. Why? We just translated the same protocols between radio and the internet.
And you know what's funny also about that, and people sometimes don't understand it, but you know, as a tech guy, I was often called to you know, fix router problems. Oh, the signal doesn't go there, or it doesn't go there. And I mean, I'm really happy to have a radio side to my knowledge, because you understand that. Oh, okay. Well, we'll check. We'll change the channel. This one has too many routers on the same one, or you know, you understand things that people just have no idea because they don't realize it's radio waves coming out of the router.
That's actually how I got into the business I'm in, because I'm in IT and hosting.
Okay.
And working with networks, I got used to dealing with internet when I was at Concordia University. We actually put up a gateway between amateur radio and the internet.
Okay.
And we were actually one of the first student groups that were able to get access to the university network, which was a job and a half in itself. When you sat there watching raw packets go by, and you started to understand how the protocol worked, then you know, the stuff that was happening on wires was easy because it's contained in the wires.
Yeah, absolutely. For those asking in the chat, yes, there are radios here, but the only working amateur station here is a VHF station. It's not they're not on HF, so you cannot make any contacts. Would have been nice though to set that up. That would have been kind of a interesting thing to do. Maybe next year. Maybe next year. Maybe we'll think about that and maybe have some kind of HF station up and working that you guys can communicate. So, but it's really it's just 2 meters right now set up here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And been fantastic. Nice to have you on.
Good for you.
And you know, like everybody else, it's kind of fun to meet everyone and chat about radio. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
So you are watching the Shortwave show. We are live from Greenfield Park. We're almost at the 2-hour mark for our show. Anybody else wants to say hello, or we've reached our maximum? I like his face. It's like, no, I don't want to be there. I like that kind of face. Nope. Please, don't do it. It's okay. I did say in the last show I will not force anybody. We're going to take a look at a little something here, guys. I just want to show you guys, for as close as I can push the camera. We've got some interesting stuff here. Hey guys, look at these cool little radio, and look, this is what it looks like. So you'll be in the camera for 2 seconds.
Wave.
Hey everyone. So this is nice little gang here. So look at that, guys. We've got some nice radios here. Look at that. I am actually touching with my bare hands a ICOM STR 8600, and it is beautiful, but surprisingly small. I was surprised to see it. And here we have the Racom, pretty nice. And what are you doing right now? Are you tuning on the RS Play, SDR and Play?
SDR Uno software.
With the SDR Uno software.
And I can also use the HD SDR software, which I know you.
Yes, I use HD SDR a lot. What do you have a preference for one software over another?
No, they have their own strengths. I also have a Glad FDM that I like.
Okay.
I like that software for doing some like FMDX and
So you were telling me that you actually like the performance of the ICOM?
Yes.
And
there's only 2 things that I don't like about it is the lack of DMR, and also there's no detect because I use a program called DSP.
Okay, lack of DMR and no detect output is the 2 things he doesn't like. But for the rest, you love it.
It's great.
You're happy for your purchase.
I'm very happy.
You did not exchange it for anything in the world.
And I like the size of it.
Well, you know what? I was surprised at the size, but I gotta say, it makes it rather portable. I'm gonna bring it somewhere to TX. It's actually quite portable. It's quite heavy. Yeah. It's quite heavy. I'm surprised at the weight. Wow. Okay. But
yeah, it's probably heavier than the right now.
Is the power supply external?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it runs off of 12 volts.
Okay, so it's an external power supply. Hey, I'm surprised how heavy it is.
And it also takes about 2 amps of
2 amps of power
of 13.8 volts.
Okay, so it does require a lot of juice to power up. So if you have it on a DX Expedition, better have a good power pack because it's amazing. So cool. Thank you for bringing these little. What's the portable?
Well, this is interesting because this is a Kenwood D7400, and this can get HF.
Oh, really?
And it's all mode HF. It's got a 12 kilohertz output, so you can hook it up and do DMR stuff.
Okay.
Much like the ICOM has the 12 kilohertz. And this actually has a detect output.
Okay.
And it can receive up to about 526 megahertz. So general, there's some general coverage.
General coverage.
It can do CW and sideband as well. So it's kind of interesting radio. I just got this, and I also like it. I don't use it for listening, but I've tried stuff like hooking it up to my loops that I have here.
Okay. And by the way, for you guys, we're connected to that loop antenna there. So that's a Walbrook, right?
Yeah, Walbrook.
So that's the Walbrook.
And so I was receiving some DRM with the ICOM, and I tried Kenwood, and it basically did about the same job. But most of the receive,
pretty cool.
It's the loop.
So you say the Walbrook, happy with the Walbrook for lower noise?
Yes, it doesn't eliminate all the noise. You've got to kind of keep it away from buildings. But
for me, high noise level with my long wire right now, 22-meter sloper that I have, if I put that would
probably improve it. But you might have to place it
in a specific area. Okay. Huh. Okay, that's interesting. There's a lot of people in the chat are telling me get a Walbrook, and you should get better results.
It's not, it won't solve everything, but it's, you can, if you set it up properly. I set that up on the top of my roof, and it didn't do a very good job of all the noise coming out.
Okay.
But when I did it away from buildings,
it works well.
Even near ground level away from buildings.
Okay, so even at, it's what, maybe 12 feet up? Something like that?
It's more like 8 feet up.
8 feet up, okay.
And it's doing a reasonably good job. There's a little bit of noise, but I can hear stations all over.
Still? Okay. Yeah,
and we're right near a power line.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Cool. Okay, man, thank you for bringing the radio. Very, a lot of fun. Okay.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, any questions on, we're going to check it out here. Any questions on any radios like the ICOM ICR 8600 or anything you want to know? Scotty Tier 6 in Toronto loves his R8600, very happy with it, pretty cool. And what else do we have here? Anybody have questions, please say anything. Raquel Gilles, what I would have given for this live stream tech in the 80s. We were blind for YouTube.
Well, this is a 1990s radio, but back then it was very expensive. But yeah, it's kind of strange because we have good receivers today, but the listening has changed. It's not like we're a lot of the international broadcasters.
The Raquel is the RA
3791.
3791, the RA 3791. The ICOM SCR 8600 is what, about in the US, how much is it?
About 2600.
2600 here, I believe, in Toronto, Radio World in Toronto, I think it was 32.99 Canadian, something like that. I had a link, somebody sent me a link. I think it's 32.99 Canadian.
It's a good chunk of change, but I think it's worth it. It's like the Raquel, and I also have a Watkins Johnson, and used. These receivers go for about $2,000.
One thing also that a lot of people don't realize, the ICOM, they try to compare the ICOM ICR IC7300, the transceiver that looks like this radio, but it's not at all the same thing. This one is wideband. It goes up to, what's the height?
3 gigahertz.
3 gigahertz, and of course it has some digital mode decodes. So it's really not the same thing as the transceiver, which I believe goes up to like 50 or 60, something like
6 meters.
6 meters, and pretty much that's it. So you can't compare them. They're not the same radio. That's why they're not the same price.
They're but if you like HF only, there's some people who recommend it for like a good HF.
Oh, of course. If you just listen to the HF, to the shortwave spectrum, then you have other choices that are less expensive that do a great job for that. So the current price at Radio World is $3,399.99, so $3,399. Man, thank you, Richard, and everybody that's saying that the show is cool. So hey, we have been on for 2 hours, and because it's going to cost me like a fortune in streaming fees, unless anybody else has something to add here, I think we're going to start winding down for today. A little shorter than usual, but you know, a great show with a lot of people. And I want to thank everybody for being here always. It's pretty cool. We are here with radio shows. So a little rundown. Radio shows every Friday, 2000 hours UTC on this channel. Every 2 weeks on Saturdays. So the next show will be on Saturday. Incredible. Saturday, September 2nd. Already going to be in September. Also, I have the Tech Show on Tuesdays in the Windows channel. Tech Show is 3 p.m. Eastern, 1900 UTC. We have the Windows Insider Hour for those that want to know more about the Insider program, the future of where Windows is going. Thursdays on the Windows Insider channel, 3 p.m. Eastern, 1900 hours UTC. And I want to just thank everybody. And before we go, once again, a little promotion here. It's been really, really fantastic to be here at the CIDX barbecue. It's been a lot of fun. You guys seem to have enjoyed this. And you know what? It's really fun because it's different from usual shows. It's fun to meet a lot of people, and see everybody's passion for radio. And I want to thank everyone that was here today. I want to thank everybody here also. PayPal.me/shortwave if you want to donate a little something, help me out. You can also be a patron at patreon.com/radio and computers. Hope you enjoy our fine selection of people that were really interesting in all aspects of radio. Thanks everybody for being here. David Arden, well, there are specifics of antennas that go up to 3 gigahertz. I gotta say, what's even more important when you go up in such a high frequency is the coax that you bring to your radio, because at that high frequency range you have a lot of loss if you don't have good feed line up to the radio. So thanks everybody, thank you for the really nice comments, and hey, thank you everyone for participating. Good night everybody. Thank you for watching the show, and see you next Friday for the Shortwave show. No, sorry. We have Monday. I was about to forget about Monday. So Monday the Eclipse, and here we have I think a dancing Sheldon. And thank you. So Monday's solar eclipse special show for Monday, solar eclipse / shortwave, 1800 hours UTC, 2 p.m. Eastern. Thank you very much for being here. We had a great audience. We were in the 100 plus during all of the stream, and pretty cool. It held up really well with the LTE connection. Thank you very much, and stay safe, everybody. Love you all, and see you Monday. See you soon on this radio show. Thanks. Bye, everyone, and see you. Stay safe.